Hello my dear developers, welcome back to this channel. This is Netcode Hub channel. We facilitate lessons on .NET MAUI applications, and that is a desktop and mobile applications, and also Blazor WebAssembly and Blazor server lessons, both projects and single lessons. So if it is the first time of coming to or watching this video from this channel, then check our playlist because we have a lot of good stuff for you for .NET framework. Okay, now this video, I believe you know what you are going to do today, and that is we are going to talk about how to implement infinite scrolling in .NET MAUI applications using collection view. Now before we dive into this with a practical aspect, what actually is infinite scrolling? Do you have any idea on that? According to Google, we have a simple definition over here, and that is infinite scroll. It is a technique that allows users to continuously browse the content page without seeing any finish line or button. That's simple. So it allows people to scroll through pages. There's no end. They keep going. I hope you've been using Facebook, YouTube. All these applications have this infinite scroll. And that is what you're going to do today. So you know something, you're going to have an API that is a dummy API for test. We're going to get data from this API, and that's what you're going to be using. So I tried to surf online to get some dummy APIs, so it will make this lesson easier. Now I got these three APIs. We have the product API and we have the dummy JSON also. So all this is for product, and also this also for product. But I got one here that is a JSON placeholder typicode.com, and we had this like a to-do list. So I wanted to get a whole list of data, so I had this, and as you can see, it is from ID 1 up to the last one, and that is almost 200. Yeah, so 200 data is enough for these practicals. So let's kickstart by creating the .NET MAUI app project. So launch the Visual Studio, and that is what I have now. I've created one already, and that is an empty one. So if I run, I've already done it before, and that is what you see here. Nothing. But we have to install some NuGet packages, and that is what we're going to be using. We have to use the community toolkit.mvvm because that is the style that you're going to code with. And also we are going to install the same community helper, and as a refactor.mvvm.helper. So let's install these packages. When we start to use, you're going to understand why we install these packages. So let's right click on dependencies. So here you have to install this first. I've installed this already. As you can see, we have community toolkit.mvvm, so we have to install this. Then let's install 1.2. So right click on this, then go to manage NuGet packages. I have to stop this before it's going to run. So I'll click on this, manage NuGet packages, then the page opens. So you're going to make a search here to install that package. Now once you're here, just type in community toolkit mvvm, and I have installed that already, so I'm just showing you where it is to install. Okay, so that is this one. You can see I have this green mark checked to mean that it's installed. Now we have to also install mvvm helper. So, and that is what we want. So refactored.mvvm helpers by James. So we have to install this. Let's accept. So it is now installed. So you can see that from here it has changed from install to uninstall, meaning it is successfully installed. We can close this. Now if you open the packages, you can see we have community toolkit.mvvm, and we're going to have the refactored.mvvm helpers. So these are the two packages that we are going to be using today. Okay, now the next thing that we have to do here is we have to create our folders for this. You know, when creating projects or lessons, you have to organize your project or your code well. So it is better you create projects or folders to put them in and now make your source code presentable and also readable as well. So let's create a folder, and I'm going to create this one. So here, let's make this as views. That's we're going to keep our views. We have to also create another one, and here is going to be view models, and let's create another one, and this one we have our models, and now let's create last one, and now that's going to be our services. You know, as soon as we are getting data from API, we have to create service to get that, right? And that is exactly what we are going to do here. Okay, so in our views we have our main page already, but you can decide to keep the main page or try to use the other one. So maybe let's use the main page because that is the default one already, and we're going to have any views again. You're going to have only one. So let's clear this view rather. Okay, this is set to default page, and that's done in the appshell.cs. So when you check the appshell.xaml file, you see we have set as for local to main page already. Okay, now the next thing that we have to do is let's create our service. So our service that going to get from the database, or that's from the API. So let's right click on services, let's add an interface. So add an item here, and now we're going to choose an interface, and here, you know, the API that we are getting, it is to do. So we're going to say I to do. So I to do. Okay, so I to do service. And now let's create the implementation class. So we're going to say this is to do service. To do service. Let's right click on the models. Let's create a model for this. So this is to do. Now what are the properties that we're going to use here? So let's set this to, so this is public class to do, and now in here let's see, so let's check our API first. Now you see our API has user ID, we have title, completed. So we want to grab this. Now user ID is number, ID is also is number, title and completed is also what? This is bool. So let's say user ID, we can just copy one like this, and in here in application, let's paste this here. So let's have, we have this, we go for this user ID. So we first have int ID, and now we do same. So int, and this is user ID, and we have the next one here, it is string, and this string it is title, and then the last one here, that is bool, and it is completed. So we say completed. So let's clear this. So we are done with our model. Now the next thing that we have to do here is let's use this model in the service. So we go to the I service, and now here, you know, we are getting a list. So we say task, and that is a list of to do, because we want to get a list of this. So not to do service, rather to do. So let's include this model, and we say get to do's. So let's get this. So this is only what that we want from here. Now let's create our, let's go to the implementation class. And you know what, we know you have to inherit from this interface. So let's inherit from that, and a control period, we have to implement the interface, and that's a list of to do. Okay, so now we have this, let's create a constructor so that we can inject HTTP context. So generate constructor for this, and now in here let's inject HTTP client. So you create an object, then control period, let's create an assigned field, not property. So take note, we assign field. So now this, you can use this HTTP client over here. Now here, so let's make this, let's say this is, should we get like, let's use resource is equal to HTTP client dot get async, and now here we have to pass in the URL. So let's go to the link, and now there's the list. So we just have to grab the whole thing like this, and now we go back to page here, and now we pass in double quotes. Okay, so here we are going to, let's check the response. So let's say response is equal to results. We don't want to use result.results. So result dot, before we use this result, let's have an await. So even here we have to call an await as well. So await, then we go for result dot content dot read as, you want to read as, read from list, read from JSON async, then you pass in the list of to do. Okay, now we just return response. So this is what we are doing. So we have the response here. Now let's go to our view model folder. So let's create a view model here. So add class, and this class is going to be main page view model. The reason why I am giving it main page view model is, view models have to be bound to the content page. So normally we want to use the content page to name the model, so it becomes easily for us to identify and now link them. So that is why I'm saying that view model. I hope you get it. So let's add this view model, and now here it must be a public partial class. The reason why is the inheritance that you're going to do, it must come from this. Okay, so you have to, it is a class already, so we're creating a part of it. Control period, we have to use this. Then let's see, so we have to call this. So let's call this instead, like this, and now let's take off this. The reason why I'm doing this is the package that we install, that is a helper, also has an observable object. So if you don't specify the type of observable object that you want here, you're going to have an ambiguous exception, because you have two observable objects and the system might not know which one to use. So that's why we specify this here by adding the reference here. Okay, let's create a constructor here. So generate constructor, and now let's inject the interface that we created. So that's the i-to-do service, and now we say to do service control period, let's create an assigned field. So we have this field assigned. Now when page loads, let's add load to do's. So load this. Now let's create this method. So introduce or create method for to do. Now in here we have to create public. Now here we can use observable range collection. Observable range collection. then let's pass in to do, then we say to do's, then get set equal to new observable range collection to do. Now they're saying something. It's because it's less accessible than method and i2do service, so let's check i2do service, and here must be public. Let's save that. Let's check the service too, and it is public as well. Okay, now let's go back to the model, and it is solved now. Okay, so the reason why we are adding observable range collection is, now you know when you install the community2k.mvvm, it supports observable collection, and here in case we get data from the API, when using the collection we have to loop through by using the for each and add it one by one to the list here. It's going to waste time, so that's why we're going to use this helper. Now this helper, you can use add range, replace range, and a whole lot of stuff in this. So thanks to James Montenegro who created this package, and it's very helpful as well. Now let's say, so we have this. Now we are going to call the service here. So let's see what we can do. But before that, let's pass in, let's say, and you have a page size. So page size, let's make it at 20. So that's our page size. And now in here, we're going to have, let's create, so result is equal to, we have, let's first create a list here. So we say var, or we can just say that list of to do, so equal to list of to do, that's a to do list, equal to new. So here we say that to do list equal to await. Now let's call this to do service. So to do service, and you can have a method known as get to do's. So we get this from the API. So we're going to get all data from the API and I'll store it to this list. Now when we store, we have to get the page size and assign it to this range. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to say that to do's dot add, you can use this range. Now this range, we are going to say that to do list dot skip. So initially the skip is going to be 0, right? So the skip here, we can maintain 0, or we can clear even the skip from it, because initial one there's no skip value. So then let's use dot take. So dot take how much or how many, that is the page size. So you pass in this page size. Okay, so that is what we are adding. Now we store the list locally into this list over here. Then we are taking 20 out of this and now assign it to this range. That is it. Now after doing this, the next thing that you have to do here is we come back again to this. Let's register this into the view model and the service in the program.cs file. So we say builder.services.add. So let's add transients because you're going to be adding. So main page view model. So that is this one. And let's add it to its view as well. So services.add transient, and that is a main page. So the reason why we are adding this transient is anytime that we want to call this, we want to create a new instance, because a new data could be called. So we have the default one as 20. When the next button is clicked, or when the next call is made, it's going to add another 20. So it is no more 20 again, but rather going to be 40. So we have to create transient so that it's going to create a new instance to update the data anytime it is called. Okay, so that's how we have to use this. Now, aside from that, we have to use the interface, that is a service. So add builder.services.add HTTP. So let's say .services.http client. But before we add this, we have to install a package here. So let's say .add HTTP. Then we call to do service. Then we say to do service. Now let's say with the HTTP client, we have to install Microsoft.extension. So let's install that package from the NuGet package. So right click on dependencies and manage NuGet packages. So here it is Microsoft.extension. So let's add extension, just extension to search for that. So we need to install Microsoft.extension.http. So let's install that too. So we apply and we accept. So it is saying that iService collection does not contain add HTTP client. So let's go to the MAUI program, and so now it is now installed. Let's check it over there from this MAUI program.cs file. So you can see it is solved now. So when you go to dependencies and packages, we have the extension.http installed over here. Okay. Now we can close this peacefully. Alright. Now after doing this, what's the next thing? Let's bind this view model to this content page. So we go back to, let's close this, we go back to the main page, that code behind file, and that's the main page.xamarin.cs. And now in here, let's bind this as main page view model. Then let's bind the context. So we say binding context is equal to this main page view model. We save that. So let's go to the main page itself, and now let's add the models and also the data type. So demo dot, we have to use view models, and now we specify the data type here. Aside from that, let's specify the model. So XMLNS, that's XAML namespace. So we're going to say that we want to get models is equal to, so CLR dash namespace, and now we are going in for demo dot models. So that is what we have here. So with this, we can now, let's comment this, Control KC, we comment that. Now what you can do here is we have to use collection view to display the current 20 data that we have in our collection view. So down here we can just minimize this, and now down here we're going to use, we can use collection view. So collection view, and now before we use collection view, maybe we can use grid. And now this grid, you're going to use row definition. So let's use star, and now in here let's go in for vertical stack layout, and now let's pass in a collection view. So this collection view, we have item source, and now this item source we are going to bind in to do. So because you have to do list here, now we have to go in for item template. So collection view dot item template, and that is this one. So we have to use that. Within that, we can now go for data template, and now within this data template, we can now go for maybe you can use maybe a vertical stack layout. So, and in this, let's use the first label. So this label, well, now with the data template, you have to specify X data type, and now this data type is going to be models dot and now to do. So with this, we're going to say the text that you want to display here. The first one is an ID. So you're going to say this is ID. We can format this well. Okay, so instead of using this vertical stack, we can use, let's have a horizontal between this. So horizontal. Then in here, let's specify label. So let's paste what we have here. So the first one here, let's specify it as ID. So this is ID. Now we can make a copy of this, and now we can paste it here. So here it is ID. Here we're going to bind it to the ID, and we say binding, and now we say ID. Now we can make a copy of this in the horizontal or vertical stack layout, and now let's paste it again, and now you can have user ID. So user ID, and now in here we're going to say that user ID. Now the last one is going to be the title. So we're going to say title, and here we're going to bind it to title. So we save that. Now after doing this, let's run it and see what we have now. So let's save this. Now let's run it. Alright, so you can see we have the data over here, and that is over 20. As you can see from here, we have from ID 1, and let's see from ID 1 we have up to ID 13 here. So this, it seems it is not scalable. Now let's see what we can do from here. Now with this, let's set this vertical option. So vertical option, let's set to fill and expand. So let's see, and maybe you have to restart this. So let's save this. Let's restart this and see. Whilst we also restart, we can decide to set the ID. Let's form well. So we come back to the user ID and the title. So we save all these, and now let's wait. Okay, so now let's take off the grid here, and let's take off this vertical stack layout, and let's make it a stack layout because you specify this collection as. So let's make this a stack layout. Alright, so I believe this is going to work. So let's refresh this again. Alright, so you can see now this is working. So let's set this to, now in here, this is what we're going to do. Let's put this in a frame. So we have all this, and in here, let's cut this and put it in a frame. So we're gonna say frame. Let's paste this. Now in here we have to specify background color. So we set this to, now let's see if this will work. Hot reload will work for us. Let's set the padding to 10. So we're going to have top, left, bottom, and right. You have to, unless we restart this again. So let's restart. Okay, so you see we have the data here, and what we can do is maybe we can set this. Now you have padding, you can have margin. Now 0 left, let's pass in maybe 10 left, 10 10 each. Okay, so this style is okay for me. I believe maybe this is ugly to you, but you can decide to format or style it the way that you want. Let's maintain this for this lesson for sake. So you can see we have from ID 1 up to ID, let's say 20. But when we check, let's put a breakpoint here. Let's go to our service, and in here let's put a breakpoint. So let's see the number of items that's going to return. So let's restart this again whilst we put a breakpoint, and let's see the count of items that we have in our list. But we have only 20 appearing here. Okay, so we have the response, and response here this now. But when we check our results, the status code is 200, and we have the content here. Now let's decode this. So continue on, and now let's see. So how many count here? It is 200. We have count of 200. So when you go to raw view, let's see if we can have 0 to 99, 100. So as you can see, we have a whole lot of this. So that is it. It's up to 200, but we have only 20. So we have to enable the scroll view. So as soon as we decide to scroll up, then wait. As soon as you scroll up, we're going to have the rest coming in. Okay. Now let's see. So let's go to our list here, and that's our service. So as you can see from here, we have a view model. And now in our view model, we are getting 20 now. So there's a feature in this collection view that can enable us to add the to or the rest of the content in there. This is our collection view. And now in our collection view, we can add this feature in it. What are these features? We have remain item threshold and remain item threshold command. So first of all, let's create our command first, then we come back. So we have this, and now let's create a command. So we have to create public async task. So get next data. And before I forget, or before we forget, let's assign the relay command on top. Now in here, we know we have page size of 20. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to say that this to do, when this is called, this to do dot add range. So this add range, we're going to specify to do list dot skip. Okay, so we're going to skip now the count of the same to do list. So to do list dot count. So kindly, if it is 20, it's going to skip 20. Then dot take page size. Dot take page size. Yes. So that's what you're going to do. But first of all, we have to check first if this it is not. So we can check if to do list dot count is greater than 0. That is where we want to do this. So we want to do this only when the count is greater than 0. If it is less than 0, then we call this method. We can call this method. Okay. So when we click on that and it is less than 0, we can say else. Then call this load data method or load to do's. method. And now here we have to put an await to that. Or let's see, since it is void, we can't put it. Let's use this. So we save that, and now here this can be we can take off the async, so it's going to be public task then. So let's see what it is doing. Now it is saying something, not all code returned task. So can it be void? So public void get this next one here. Okay, so we have this command. Now let's copy this command here, and let's go to our main page.xaml, and here we are going to specify the two features, that's the remain threshold and also remain item threshold command. So how many lists do we want to leave or get to before we call the next command? Maybe you can talk about one. When we get to the last one, that's the 20, then call this command. So we have to specify that too. So now in here, where we have our collection view, we're going to specify it here. And the first one is remain. You can see we have remain threshold. So remain item threshold, and we're going to say 1. Also, we can have the command remain threshold reach command, and now we can call this binding. Then let's paste what we have there and add command to it. Now let's save this, and now let's restart application and see what we're going to have next. Alright, so our page is now loaded 1 up to 20. So now let's go. Now as soon as we get to 20, we are expecting to get a new set of data. So this 20. So when we hit this 20, we have to get the next data. And as you can see, the command is not working. Let's set a breakpoint and see. So we go to our to-do list. Okay, so let's see our main page view model, and I have this get next data. Let's set a breakpoint here. Let's see if this is going to hit. Let's see. So we save that, and let's run this again. Now this is the first method. So when you get to 20, okay, so this get hit. Continue on. Now what is the count of this? Okay, so this is not what you're talking about. You're talking about this. It's supposed to be this to do, so we have to paste this. And now let's save that. So if the count of this is greater than 20, greater than 0, then we're going to add to do list.skip the to do count here. What we have, so it should have been this .skip to do .count and take page size. So we are taking it from this to list and add it to this by using the count of the current count, that is 20. Skip the 20 and take the next one. Okay, so the next thing, we're going to count and now skip it and take the next one. So that's what we're going to do. Let's restart the whole application again, and now let's see this is going to work. Okay, so now we are going to scroll again and see if this method is going to hit, and I'm going to have the right thing to do. So 16, and now it is hit. So continue on. What is the count here? The count is 20, so the statement is true. Now get this. What is the current count? Is 20, and now this count is 200. So let's see the next. If I click on this, now let's see. So here it is saying that, so wait, and now let's see. So we have 21, 22, we have 20 up to 30. So as soon as you get to 40, it is hit again. Now let's see. So count and go again. Now let's see 41, 42, 43 up to 60. It is hit again. So let's remove this hit, and now let's continue. So you can see it goes up. So that's the infinite scrolling. Now you are scrolling up to the whole end of the data. So you can see the data is 200. So let's scroll. Let's go. So 107. We see we are going like that. So this is what we can do. For any exception, we can put it as try catch. You know how to handle exception by using try catch. So let's handle this exception. Yeah, in case you have any issue, and it's going to tell us. So catch, and now we have exception here, EX, and when there's any exception, you can just await cell dot current dot display alert, and now you can say that this is an alert. Then you're gonna say EX dot message, then OK button. So we can do same to the first one here. So in case we have any exception too, we can just handle that too, because it's very nice to handle exceptions. So, and it is very important too. So try and catch. Okay. So now we have our exception handled. Now this is, you know, it should return async. So this must be a task. And do we have any issue here? Let's say I have this try catch, and that is try and catch. Okay, so what is it saying? The page size does not exist. It means you have an error here. Let's try that and see. Whoa, so you have to clear one. So here is a task, and this can also be a task as well. So async task, because we can return this, the exception. So you're going to be task. Okay, now it is start, then this is supposed to be awaited. Okay, so now we have this. When you run this, let's refresh this and see what we're going to have now. So that is it. Now you can see it is still working perfectly as seen from here. Now let's add indicator. So that's loading. As soon as the page loads for the first time, while getting data, you want to have the loading indicator. Okay, so now we can add indicator here to load, to show at least if it is loading. Now that is called activity indicator. And now with this activity indicator, let's go to this page. So let's go to the main view model, and now let's have is busy variable. So we're going to use bool is busy. Then let's put this as observable property. So now in here, when the page loads for the first time, we want to check. So when this method is called, we want to set is busy. Let's set that to true. And also down here you can set this to false also here. Okay, so let's save this and let's go back to our page. And now this indicator, let's set the color as red, and let's set is running. Yes, so that's going to be true. And now it's visible. So it's visible. We bind this to is busy. So let's stop this and let's run our code again to see. So click on this. Alright, so you can see that our loading indicator is loading, and as soon as the data comes in, let's see. So now it is fetching the data, and you can see as soon as the data comes in, it is off now. Okay, so you know, I'll put this link, I'll put this project to GitHub, so you can grab the source code here. I'll put it over there. That is it for this video. If you like what I am doing, please like the video. You can also subscribe if you haven't done so, and you can share. check the playlist too, as I said earlier on, and we have a lot of lessons for you. Take care of yourself, and I'm going to catch you up in the next video.